This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. We begin this evening with a look at affordable housing in Winnipeg. Concern is growing among advocates over the loss of residential hotels. The sale and closure of the Windsor Hotel in downtown Winnipeg is just the latest to leave tenants displaced, but it likely won't be the last. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, while spaces that remain may not be perfect, they do give people a home.
Angela Tates uses a can of spray to freshen up the air in her small, cluttered room in the McLaren Hotel on Winnipeg's Main Street. She moved in 10 years ago. Before that, she was unsheltered.
I live by the river this summer. Yeah, it was really hard to get a reasonable place to live.
She's among 150 people who live here and hundreds of people across the city who advocates say rely on single-room occupancy hotels as places to live. Tate's pays $450 a month for a room with 2 shared washrooms per floor, each with a tub and toilet.
So it's nice to get into a place like this, you know, even though it's not very elegant or very high class. It was reasonably priced and it was available.
While several residential hotels still exist in the city, University of Winnipeg urban geography professor Gino DeStasio says others are gone for good.
Probably over the last 2 decades, we've lost upwards of a dozen hotels in our downtown, and that's been to demolition, to fire, and also to conversion. And we know that in Winnipeg's case, probably at its peak, I would suggest we had probably 1,000 people living in downtown hotels as their primary residence.
One person still lives in the Cambridge Hotel on Pembina Highway, which has 11 units no longer available for rent, according to the general manager, due to a pending demolition. In 2020, the St. Regis Hotel was demolished after being sold. Earlier this year, the Windsor Hotel was sold and closed under a provincial health order, displacing at least 20 long-term residents. Main Street Project's Director of Community Initiatives, Kate Schoberg, says losing units creates homelessness.
It's a huge problem, and it means that people who are low income, who have found a solution that works for them, don't have access to that solution.
In the case of the Windsor, Schoberg says community organizations helped everyone who wanted support find transitional or permanent housing. Her organization provides social supports at the 42-unit Bell Hotel, which was previously converted into supportive housing, where people live long-term and stay for an average of 4 years.
We need a diversity of options for everyone in the city. People need choice.
Rick Lees with the Equal Housing Initiative envisions a similar model for the McLaren Hotel. There is a $12 million plan to retrofit the 7-story building to improve living conditions without evicting current residents.
This is going to be 24/7 supportive housing with wraparound supports.
People who live in this building right now don't have anywhere to cook. Under the retrofit, there will be a congregate kitchen here in the hallway of every second floor. McLaren Hotel resident Dwight Lavallee is supportive of the changes.
I like to have a cooking place, yeah. You know, cook some things up and that.
Tate says the place could use some paint, but other than that, she's satisfied.
I keep my room messy and no one complains, right? So that's all I care about.
She plans to stay as long as she can, but hopes to one day move into a retirement home. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba will be the new home of a new national agency with a headquarters right here in Winnipeg. This was announced as part of the federal government's budget document. As CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, the agency will be responsible for something very familiar to most Manitobans.
If there's one thing Manitobans know, it's water. We have large lakes, we experience frequent flooding, and sometimes our biggest bodies of water look a lot like a spinach smoothie. Water quality, water science, and water management are all expected to be responsibilities of the Canada Water Agency, a new national entity with a headquarters slated for Winnipeg.
This is something that we don't actually have in this country at the moment.
Matt McCandless says the agency will be a one-stop water management shop.
Issues like climate change, water quality, floods, and droughts, so that there's sort of a national approach to these things, which right now is being somewhat distributed in provinces and other jurisdictions.
Manitoba's premier says she's happy to see the HQ in the federal budget.
We're certainly very happy to have the water agency that is going to be setting up its head office in Manitoba. It's something that we have been calling on the federal government for some time now.
The budget also calls for $65 million of annual spending on freshwater science, with a fraction of that going to Lake Winnipeg and Lake of the Woods. That's not a lot of money for every lake and river in Canada.
It's definitely an improvement over where we have been in many recent years.
McCandless says organizations like his own can assist with the science, making Winnipeg the right place for a water agency. A new federal agency will mean more jobs for Winnipeg, but it's unclear how many employees will work at this new headquarters. A number of Canadian cities were hoping to land the facility. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A private foundation named for one of Manitoba's most generous philanthropists will help improve care for cancer patients in Brandon. The Paul Albrechtsen Foundation is covering $3.5 million of the cost of expanding the Western Manitoba Cancer Centre. The total for the expansion is $26 million. Liam Haar, who chairs Cancer Care Manitoba's foundation, announced the gift in Brandon this morning.
It is difficult to put into words how meaningful and impactful this gift is. It will change the cancer experience for Manitobans and their families for many years to come.
Albrechtsen was a mechanic who earned his fortune in the transportation industry. He died in 2019. MKO, the organization representing Manitoba's northern communities and chiefs, is sending mental health resources to Thompson. A mobile crisis response team and the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Liaison Unit will be in the city of Thompson to help the family of a 15-year-old girl. That teen's body was found yesterday morning in the dog park off Baffin Crescent. She had been reported missing to RCMP just hours earlier. MKO says plans are also underway to organize a vigil in Thompson for the girl. RCMP are investigating her death. And Winnipeg police have released new video and images of a suspect in an assault earlier this month. Police say the attack happened near the Kennedy Street entrance of the Provincial Court Law Courts building in the early morning hours of Friday, March 17th. A 20-year-old woman was assaulted. If you know anything about the person shown in this video, police ask that you contact them. Steinbach's population is growing. So too is the number of people there looking for a family doctor. The CBC's Ian Fraze reports on Steinbach's physician prognosis.
Samantha Farrell can grab an iced coffee any day she wants in Steinbach.
Thank you.
But what she can't get is a family doctor. Emails from the provincial doctor finder are always disappointing.
As soon as I see, unfortunately, I stop reading because I know.
The Regional Health Authority says 3,500 people in the Steinbach area want a doctor, and the city is short about 10 physicians. In fact, this month, one small clinic closed for good.
People are struggling trying to find a family doctor, putting themselves on a wait list that never really materializes into a spot with a physician.
The president of Doctors Manitoba says it's telling when a city not that far from Winnipeg cannot find doctors.
If you can't attract physicians there or in some of these easier to attract areas with more amenities, then that's a problem.
Since losing her family doctor in 2020, Farrell only gets medical care if she cannot wait anymore. She's been to the ER 3 times.
I shouldn't have had to go to the ER for a ruptured cyst. It never should have happened. And here now I'm a stress on the ER department that has a waiting room full of people. And all they can do for me is book me for an ultrasound later and give me some painkillers and send me home with a list of, if this happens, come back.
Her options are limited. A walk-in clinic would book the test she needs, but it's in Winnipeg. Farrell doesn't drive and there's no bus. Her only ticket is a $150 taxi ride.
That's money a single mom like me doesn't necessarily have.
Ashley Desonier wants a close relationship with her doctor again.
I did have that rapport with my other doctor, but she just didn't have the time.
It was 2 years ago, and Desonier couldn't wait 6 weeks for an appointment. She now goes to Winnipeg, Those trips to see a different doctor for her Lyme disease are taking its toll.
We're spending, $50 in fuel and a full day in Winnipeg just to get a prescription refilled or to see a doctor for 15 minutes.
People here hope more doctors think their community's well-being is worth the trip. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Steinbach, Manitoba.
Every spring, graduating medical students apply for residency training programs where they'll learn a specialty. Data released by the Canadian Resident Matching Service shows what could be an alarming trend when it comes to our shortage of family doctors. In Manitoba this year, after a first round of matching between the students' choices and the program's picks, 13 of the 62 family medicine spots are unfilled. That includes 2 of the 4 spots in Steinbach. Dr. José Francois heads the family medicine program at the University of Manitoba. Francois says he's confident all of Manitoba's spots will be filled when the second match results are announced April 27th. But he does worry about how to make family medicine more attractive to new doctors.
Which is a concerning sort of trend because we desperately need family physicians across the country. I'm more concerned around what the final number is after our second round. Hopefully we fill all of those positions.
The Winnipeg Ice are getting ready to kick off their playoff run this Friday. The team had a practice this morning as they gear up to host the Medicine Hat Tigers for round 1 of the WHL playoffs. The Ice enter the postseason as favorites, posting new franchise records for wins and points. Winnipeg ends the regular season with the best record in the Western Hockey League. 57 wins, 115 points. Ice head coach James Patrick says those numbers are great, but they mean little in the playoffs. He says the team is focusing on taking a surging Tigers squad down.
They're a younger team than us. They skate real well. So at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to maybe our depth and just how well we play with the depth that we have in our lineup.
CBC Winnipeg News plans to take you live from Wayne Fleming Arena ahead of the Ice game on Friday evening. Our Riley Lachuk will be there to bring us special features on the team and also deliver your weather forecast from the Ice Cave. But right now, meteorologist John Sauder is here to tell us about another brisk day.
Yeah, it seems like high pressure is sitting right over the southern prairies, and then we get occasional little low pressure systems drifting down from the Arctic. It's the same weather pattern we've had for over a week. And did you notice the wind?
Yes, that's what makes it feel so cold.
Yeah, it was really kind of gusty today. Let's look at the current conditions. Wind is still actually up there around 43 kilometers per hour when you look at the gust factor. So 30 to 40 was my forecast today out of the southwest, and a high of -4. So we're sitting pretty close to that right now this late in the afternoon with winds still gusting over 40 kilometers per hour. Pressure has been falling through the day, but it'll fall and rise and kind of stick right around that number as we head through tomorrow too, because high pressure is kind of sitting right over top of us. I like to show this map around the end of March because it's usually promising. Well, today, not so much. Usually we see more map than color because the snow is melting, but really no change over last week when we were talking about flood potential in the Red River Basin here. Over 40 centimeters of packed snow sitting south of the border. Even in Emerson, Winnipeg at 28. You look at Thompson, still 102 centimeter base. So a lot of melting has to happen before we start to see grass and start to sort of feel like spring is with us. Temperatures are well below seasonal. We've got the clear sky across the southern prairies and then that little bit of cloud across the north. This is one of those systems that is just weak and provided the north with maybe a dusting to a centimeter of snow. That continues to move off to the east tonight into tomorrow. Thursday, I'm calling it a sun-cloud mix. A little bit of sun in the morning, a little bit of cloud in the afternoon, on and off through the day, a little bit more in the way of cloud or a sun-cloud mix across the north. Then into Friday, late in the day, we'll start to see another little snowy system pushing into the west. In northern Manitoba, we will be clear here in the south, and winds will again start to pick up a little bit, around 30 to 40. A couple of breezy but sunny days on the way to end off the week and get into the weekend. So these are the winds right now. We've got Winnipeg at 33, so that's probably the reading that was just before the one I showed you from the airport a moment ago. So winds have actually gotten stronger since this was taken. But as we go into the day tomorrow, things really do lighten up, especially out to the west. Got a couple of calms showing up there around Brandon, so it'll feel a lot better. Tonight, though, we're looking at minus 14, mainly clear. So a little bit milder than last night, but the normal low is now minus 6. So still well below seasonal. Winds do drop off heading on into the overnight period. That's what your morning looks like. A little bit of cloud in the afternoon, high of minus 2, much less in the way of wind. It'll start to feel a little milder. And then a couple of sunny, breezy days, and we're slightly below 0, still well below normal. That's at 2 degrees on Sunday, but there's a catch, 3 to 5 centimeters of slush, Janet, on the way. We could see wet, messy conditions as we warm up on Sunday.
So it's time to dig out the waterproof boots.
Yeah, I think so.
Really. And be careful where you're walking because everything's so slippery.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John.
You bet.
It's called Rebel Armour. It's an Indigenous-led street clothing company started by Sean Rayland. Rayland started the business after spending time in prison. Now he says he's on a mission to prevent other people from going back to jail. He shared his story with CBC's Matthew Bryan Shorting at the company's new storefront location in St. James.
Should I take you guys for a walk? So this is our warehouse. On this side, this is where we do our production. I really needed this new life because the old life wasn't happening anymore, death or jail. So Red River, I got accepted from there. That was it. Life's changing for sure. Give yourself to this course, and that's what I did. I went there, shed all my beliefs that I had from being in jail about women, about everything, about education, because, you know, growing up, it's like, well, I don't want to quit hustling, so I have to go work at McDonald's. When I ended up graduating, I decided to leave my job because I was working on Rebel Armour for the past few years and there was some traction there. I called a family meeting and my family, I have 3 kids, I have 3 young ones, I have 7 altogether, older daughters, teenagers, grandkids. And so I called a family meeting and I said, I'm gonna be going all in on Rebel Armour. I'm quitting my job. And my wife was just like, what? And my mom was there too. It's just like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing.
My POs were the big ones.
Justin, we got in contact again. He just got out of he was in the penitentiary, he was there. He's like, so what's up, man? I heard you're doing you finished school, you're on the right path. You're starting a business. He's like, I need a job for my parole and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, I had a feeling you might reach out to me, but also I'm not ready because I just quit school. I'm just starting this. It's like, I need a job, bro.
I was a bad person back in the day before, yeah. I don't know. Going to prison, changing my life, doing my programs, getting my grade 12, just working on myself. I knew that I couldn't live like how I used to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the freedoms that I have now.
We decided to do that, and I told Justin, I said, I don't have there's no funding, nothing like that. Whatever we sell, that's what's gonna pay for our wages.
Rebel Armour has helped me maintain my job. He gave me an opportunity to work. I had no skills, you know what I mean? But everything that I learned was from the street, and I just applied that to what he was doing, and it's the same thing. It's just the applications are different. Yeah, like from selling drugs to selling clothes.
To set this all up, to set the systems, to get the permits, to do all of that stuff, it was very challenging. It just took a lot of determination. Last year, we powwow pitched for the money that got us the warehouse we're in now. Powwow Pitch is a national event for Indigenous entrepreneurs that come across not just Canada, but the United States, all across Turtle Island, and they bring them together to face off, powwow pitching against each other to win a grand prize of $25,000 plus all the notoriety and all that stuff. It's not just our relatives getting out of the system that are just looking for jobs. I got youth messaging me. It's crazy. It's getting pretty intense. And I'm not a human resource manager. I just wanted to create something because I knew there was a need. So now where I'm at, I'm really trying to find other leaders to come in and let's do this because Sean can't do it on his own. It's a part of my redemption journey. It's a part of who we are as Anishinaabe people, to my understanding now. We're not an individual-based culture. We're a community-based culture. It's not about me, it's about we. So back to those teachings that I got early on when I was still inside, I wanted to do something. I wanted to give back because all I did was take. And when I did give, it was pain, it was suffering. So, but now I'm on the other side. So what I want to give back is positivity. I want to teach people there's a new way, there's another way to make money, there's another way to survive out here. We don't just have to destroy each other or destroy ourselves.
Rayland, impressive. Selling Canadians on the budget. More reaction to the federal government's financial plan when we return. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the rest of the Liberal caucus are out now doing what governments always do after they table a budget. They are out selling it. The budget was delivered yesterday. It includes billions in new spending and a bigger deficit.
I think people need to understand that this is a time where Canadians need that extra support.
Some of that extra support includes a new national dental plan, which the NDP is claiming credit for, saying it forced the Liberals to deliver on that commitment. The Conservatives slam the budget, saying it does nothing to address the housing shortage or reduce inflation or fight crime. A centerpiece of the budget is big spending to promote green technology and reward green investment. Sauder Sabaryan is an assistant professor of economics at the University of Manitoba who specializes in environmental economics. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Janet, today.
With an environmental lens or an economics lens, what's your first reaction to the federal budget?
Well, I was extremely happy seeing the introduction of new investment tax credit toward electricity grids. Those are fantastic. I think the government has a fantastic job, did a fantastic job phasing in good green renewable energies. But unfortunately, Budget 2023 fails to end public financing support for fossil fuels industry, including extending tax credit to natural gas with carbon capture and a stronger storage technology.
Now, the oil and gas sector will tell you that we can't just cut the tap off, turn the tap off, that there is going to be demand for oil and gas to get us through to 2050 and beyond. What would you say to that?
Well, I'm expecting with increase in electricity and cleaner resources, the price for greener energy comes down, which disincentivize fossil fuels.
To disincentivize them because the electricity will be so much cheaper.
Exactly.
Now, we're going to need a lot of investments in Manitoba for example, electric cars. You have to drive hours and hours between, say, Winnipeg and Brandon. We're going to need a lot of infrastructure there. Do you think there's enough investment in this budget to begin the process of putting that infrastructure in place?
Exactly. A new investment tax credit for clean electricity, which will going up over 4 years from $6.3 billion to over $25.7 billion after that, would provide enough infrastructure to increase electricity grid, greener and resources.
Thank you so much for your time today, Sauder Sabaryan.
Thanks for having me again.
Ozempic is a diabetes drug that's been widely misused for weight loss, making its demand soar over the past year. Soar up to the point where officials in BC are trying to protect their supply. Lindsay Duncombe now with how the province is trying to prevent Americans from getting their hands on it.
Colin Taylor has type 2 diabetes. He takes the drug Ozempic to control his blood sugar. Supply is tight, and he just learned American patients are part of the problem.
I was quite shocked that we're not keeping our supplies here. We're shipping them down across the line, and it's affecting us.
BC now says it will move to restrict access of Ozempic to out-of-country patients.
Currently, we don't have a shortage of Ozempic, but the trend is in that direction, and action is required.
In the first 2 months of the year, more than 15,000 Ozempic prescriptions went from BC to the United States. That's more than 15% of all scripts written for the drug. The average American demand for BC drugs is just 0.5%.
This is concerning, and in my view, it has to stop.
In my Ozempic trial, the company behind the drug is aggressively marketing Ozempic on both sides of the border. For diabetes, sure, but the American ads don't shy away from the weight loss side effect.
And you may lose weight. Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
Hollywood is buzzing with reports of who may have dropped sizes thanks to Ozempic or similar drugs.
Follow-up about Ozempic.
and influencers are pushing it. BC says American patients are reaching out online. Almost all the prescriptions were written in Nova Scotia, then submitted to 2 pharmacies based in Metro Vancouver, where the drugs are processed and shipped south. Cross-border online pharmacies aren't illegal, but they are subject to regulation. The province of Nova Scotia, the drug manufacturer, pharmacists and doctors all promise to work with BC to ensure enough supply stays here. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
King Charles has begun his first trip abroad since becoming the British monarch. His Majesty's in Berlin, opening a 3-day state visit to Germany. More on that story after the break. King Charles is in Germany. It marks his first overseas state visit as monarch. This visit is partly seen as an effort to mend fences between Britain and the European Union after Brexit. CBC's Abby Kuavasan has this report from the Brandenburg Gate.
The king receiving a 21-gun salute upon his arrival here at the airport in Berlin. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier and the First Lady Elke Budenbender arrived first here at Brandenburg Gate, followed by the royal couple. And as their motorcade passed by, the crowds cheered and waved at both King Charles and the Queen Consort Camilla. It is the king's first state visit as sovereign, and another first here, the German government ensuring that the welcome ceremony, along with full military honors, took place here at Brandenburg Gate, which they've never done for any other foreign head of state, to ensure that the people here in the city of Berlin had the opportunity to catch a glimpse of the royal couple and as well as the ceremony. There were a large crowd. Some of them were from Berlin, some from other parts of the country.
I think this is quite a momentous occasion, so I'd like to be a part of it. My mom and I are big, like, royal family buffs. We went to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's. We attended outside. I'm acting like we were invited guests, but there's a fascination.
This trip is very much about mending fractured ties following Brexit. Buckingham Palace says the visit marks our shared history, culture, and values. Tomorrow, the king will meet with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz before giving a speech in front of MPs at the German Parliament, becoming the first British monarch to do so. And then on Friday, he'll take a train to Hamburg before he wraps up his 3-day visit to Germany. Abby Kwadassin, CBC News, Berlin.
Athletes from Russia and Belarus were banned from most international competitions after the Russian invasion of Ukraine last year. But the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, has paved the way for their return, citing human rights concerns. As Briar Stewart reports, that is a contentious move.
Ukraine won bronze in artistic swimming at the Tokyo Olympic Games, a year and a half before the war and before the team's pool was destroyed in a missile strike in Kharkiv. They now train in Kyiv. And two of the competitors, Marina and Vladislava Alexieva, say their practices are frequently interrupted by air raid sirens.
Coach said in the microphone, "Girls, it's dangerous, so come on in the shelter and we must stop our training."
The twin sisters dream of Olympic glory, but they say they will boycott the 2024 Olympic Games if Russian athletes are allowed to compete.
Of course, we can't imagine to stand behind them and see each other on the podium, especially.
The International Olympic Committee says it hasn't decided yet whether Russian and Belarusian athletes can take part in the Paris Games. But it released recommendations to sporting federations that would allow some of them to compete in events and potentially qualify for the Olympics. Under the IOC's recommendations, Russian and Belarusian athletes could compete, but only as neutral, which means no flag or national anthems. They could take part in individual events, but not team sports, and anyone who actively supports the war or has a contract with the military or security services would be banned. Russia isn't happy, and neither are some other European countries like Poland and Estonia. Neutral status is an obvious discrimination based on nationality, said the head of Russia's Olympic Committee. We will protest very strongly against this, said the Prime Minister of Poland. About a dozen athletes and legal experts spoke out against the IOC's recommendations.
Can we really reach the protection of Ukrainian human rights with these conditions proposed yesterday by the IOC, or are they not enough?
It's not clear when the IOC will decide just who can take part, but many Ukrainian athletes say they will fight to keep Russian and Belarusian athletes from competing on the world's largest stage. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
A Canadian swimming sensation has just set a new world record. 16-year-old Summer McIntosh electrified the crowd yesterday at a national swim competition in Toronto.
Absolutely incredible. Summer McIntosh is the newest world record holder in the women's 400 freestyle.
I think the reason I'm showing so much emotion is over the past few years I've just put in my life and so has my family, and to become the best that I can be at the sport that I love, and it just blows my mind.
16 years old, she powered through the 400-meter freestyle, finishing in under 4 minutes to set the new world record, her first. She already holds many Canadian titles, and she follows in the wake of her mother, who swam in the 1984 Olympics. Summer McIntosh is competing all week long with 600 of Canada's top swimmers, including Olympic champion Maggie McNeil. Winners this week will represent Canada at the upcoming Pan American Games in Chile in October. Swimming. She looks so tall there. I can see she's got long arms, longer than mine.
Did you see how far ahead she was, from the other
So far
swimmers?
ahead, so far ahead. And in terms of weather and maybe swimming weather, I think we were farther ahead last year,
I think we were. You look at last March, and I was just looking at some numbers. Not last March, 2 years ago in March, we had 7 separate days where temperatures were not only in the double digits, it was more like teens. As a matter of fact, like teens, double-digit highs. It's part of my almanac that I want to show you right now because we had a record high 2 years ago on this date of 19.9. That was the warmest day of that month, but it kind of goes to show you that we can be 20 degrees in March, or we can be -10 like we were yesterday and -4 today. Well, I think yesterday was -8, the day before was -10. So certainly a cool pattern, and there's the record low. Don't even want to look at that, but yeah, 20 degrees 2 years ago on this day, and Marjorie Dowhouse was in the other room, and she was saying, I think I was golfing. There were people on the driving ranges and things like that, so certainly could have been on that particular year. Temperatures right now not looking like the end of March at all. You consider the normal high is +5, and we've got a -7 in Steinbach and in Morris. Yeah, really cool conditions, at least if you like sunshine. This has been a great weather pattern. I think we're at about 6 or 7 days in a row now where we've had nothing but sunny skies. So, yeah, that is certainly a relief. Some plus numbers up around Flin Flon, a +1, a -1 in the Paw right now. It's -1 in Thompson. So, yes, warmer in Thompson right now than it is in Winnipeg. And right now it's -16 in Churchill. High pressure keeping us in the sunny skies. And then, as mentioned earlier, we've got a series of weak low pressure systems that kind of drift out of the Arctic and move into northern parts of the prairies, northern Saskatchewan, northern Manitoba, supplying us with a few flurries, and some of that will be left over tonight, but not reaching northwestern Ontario or southern Manitoba. There is a chance of light snow overnight in through Barons River. The low tonight in Winnipeg, -14, more like -17 to the south, and -16 in Brandon. Partly cloudy to clear skies, really. And then up into the north, we've got a chance of flurries here in the west, also through Thompson, periods of light snow in the Churchill area and out toward Gillam and Island Lake. And then all that's left tomorrow is some morning light snow around Island Lake. And then that latest system will continue to push away. -3s in the west, -7 in Thompson, -16 tomorrow in Churchill. Generally a sun-cloud mix leaning towards sun later in the day. And the same kind of day here, we'll have some cloud and some sun, probably not quite as bright as it was today. A high in Winnipeg of -2, -4 in Emerson. Some plus temperatures out around Pinawa and through the Whiteshell area. And then out into northwestern Ontario, +1 for, well, Red Lake, Kenora, and Dryden, and 3 degrees tomorrow with a sun cloud mix in Fort Frances.
Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.
If you have ever dreamed of buying a pool, we have a buyer beware story you need to see. The focus of the latest CBC Marketplace investigation is a man who builds and sells pools right here in Manitoba. See what some of his customers have to say about him when CBC Winnipeg News returns. A Winnipeg pool maker is the focus of the latest CBC Marketplace investigation. Dozens of his customers have called him a scammer, a con man, a snake oil salesman, and far worse. They claim to be out tens of thousands of dollars each. CBC Marketplace co-host David Common joins us now. David, who are we talking about here?
Well, Janet, his name is Kurt Whitten, although the spelling of his last name depends on who you are, because it seems that he varies the spelling, essentially going by different names. And the assertions against him by a large number of his past customers are that he takes deposits, sizable deposits, sometimes $10,000, $20,000 for prefabricated pools, made out of old shipping containers. They put the deposit down, but what they've told us, what they say in lawsuits against Kurt Whitten, is that he takes the deposit. He's never actually delivered the pool. When they try to get a refund, they don't get one back. That is the claim from a number of customers, not just in provinces across this country, but also in the United States. People each out this $10,000 or $20,000, certainly to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is an individual who has a string of bankruptcies in his past. He has been sued by customers and suppliers alike. He has judgments against him. There are dozens of lawsuits in Manitoba alone. In some cases, when he's lost in court, he has yet to pay what the court has said he must. And so it is an individual who has come under some scrutiny, but continues to offer pools for sale to customers right across the continent.
And you've spoken with some of these customers. What are they telling you?
Well, we certainly have spoken to a number of customers, and their claims are relatively similar, that they offer this deposit and there are delays, that the timelines they expect come and go, and that there are excuses that they believe are being offered. They describe some of those excuses as there were challenges during COVID, workforce or materials, and Kurt Whitten himself told us that he's faced some of those challenges. That's what he claims in any case. What we do know about some of his clients is that this can be coming at very difficult times in their life, that people are taking out lines of credit in order to pay for a pool. I think of one person in particular. Her name is Chantel DeLine. She was undergoing a series of cancer-related surgeries. She lives out in British Columbia. She was expecting a pool to be built from Kurt Whitten, never got one, never got anything. Even when she sued him, she still has not got the total amount that she gave him back, and she continues to pay off that line of credit that she used to pay for the pool that she's never got. We went and met her. Take a listen to some of what she had to say.
I was in a hospital bed trying to contact him in June. It was rough.
Now, you say that you did speak with Kurt Whitten. In fact, he agreed to an interview, and you visited his facility here in Manitoba. What did he have to say for himself?
That facility, Janet, at an industrial park in Headingley, he has had a number of different addresses in that general vicinity over the past several years. We weren't sure whether he would show up, but indeed he did. He showed us around that facility where indeed there were shipping containers that were being cut up. He said that they were being shipped to customers shortly. One area of curiosity is when we did speak with him, we asked essentially all this money that people claim you owe them, do you ever plan to build their pools or pay them back? I asked him, does he know how much he owes? And he said he didn't know how much he owed. Just take a listen to some of our encounter that we had with Kurt Whitten. How much do you think you owe to customers who have neither a pool nor their money back?
Couldn't tell you. I really couldn't tell you. I'm hoping this year will be that year so I can clear everything, because it has been bothering me.
So what comes next for his customers, David?
Well, there are customers in his past and potential customers in his future. The ones in his past say they want to warn any future customers about him, his 17 pools, 204 pools, a number of different business lines. There are other businesses that he's run that have come under scrutiny in the past from customers who have had complaints relative to money being handed over and not returned. And so this is not the first time that customers have become upset with Kurt Whitten. He acknowledges that what he calls, struggles, challenges have occurred in his past. As you hear him there say, he plans to pay people back, but a lot of the customers we've talked to say, well, I've heard that one before and I still don't have the money or a pool in my hand. And so if they can't try to recoup the money through the courts, and some of them have tried that, then they're trying to get the police to lay charges. That hasn't happened. No charges have been laid, but they are trying to alert future customers. I will just wrap up, Janet, by saying some of the ways that that Kurt Whitten, who continues to market pools to people, is continuing to sell pools right now. One of the ways that he's able to market to people is that he managed to get his logo on an HGTV renovation show. That is still in circulation. It's also on his website. And some of his customers say that's why they trusted him. That's why they went to him in the first place.
David, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
If you want to see the full investigation, check it out on CBC Gem. Still there as part of their 50th anniversary, their latest offering. Nothing cheap about the earnings at Dollarama. That discount retailer released its quarterly earnings today and beat expectations. The company says cash-strapped Canadians are looking for bargains as inflation bites into their buying power. Sophia Harris takes a look at the chain's success and what might lie ahead.
I just got these bamboo organizers.
They're so dainty and cute. The patterns and colors were absolutely adorable.
Savvy shoppers show off their finds at Dollarama.
And they're only $1.50.
Cheap is the new chic, as cash-strapped Canadians struggle with inflation and turn to the country's biggest dollar store for bargains.
It's so cheap and affordable. Anywhere else, the chips in the city are like $6. Here, they're like $2.
Tough times are forcing some retailers to close up shop in Canada, but Dollarama is doing great, reporting a 20% increase in sales and a profit of $260 million for the last quarter. And the retailer has massive expansion plans to grow from 1,400 to 2,000 stores.
There's no perishables. There's no dairy.
This expert says the company is able to keep prices low by selling simple products, which require little overhead.
It certainly minimizes the amount of staff that they require. And staff is a big factor in retail costs these days, especially with escalating minimum wages.
But Dollarama has also been hit by inflation. Last year, its highest price point rose to $5. Any higher, and some customers might be turned off.
I think the maximum price for me is $5. I am a student and the cost here in Vancouver is very high, right?
There's another hurdle. Dollar-themed rivals from the US and Asia have been expanding their presence in Canada. Even the new Zellers is trying to get in on the action.
One of the things they have to watch out for is competition. And as this sector grows, more people will enter this sector. More retailers will go for it as well.
What do you think of the prices?
You can't beat them. $1 and $2, so it's unbelievable.
So, good times for Dollarama, but maybe too good if the competition keeps moving in. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
John Sauder has your 7-day forecast, and we'll have a story of a shark that eats your garbage coming up in our Daily Lift. I want to see that. You're watching CBC.
Well, the temperature doesn't really feel like spring, but the sunset times are getting a lot later. And you look at the next 3 weeks and they get much, much later. So today, 7:55. A couple of weeks from now, 8:17, and then 8:28 on the 19th of April. So, yeah, getting a lot later. We're not really warming up. Tomorrow's going to feel better. The winds won't be as strong, but the winds pick up again Friday, Saturday. Sunday, messy day. 3 to 5 centimeters of wet snow, depending on how much of that melts on contact, and we may see more snow along with some wind by Wednesday next week. Cleaning up the world's oceans has just become a little bit easier.
A South African company has developed a remote-controlled cleaner based on a character in a Disney movie. Here's your daily lift.
It literally sweeps around the water. You can go and do your job, come back, and it should be full, and you empty it, and then you put it back in.
Kind of a Roomba, supposed to gobble up garbage, especially plastic, from oceans. It's called the Waste Shark. The inventor says it can inhale thousands of bottles a day. He calls it a cross between a shark and a vacuum cleaner. Inspired by the robot in the animated Disney movie WALL-E, which cleans up the world's trash. The machine holds 500 kilograms of debris. It can travel 5 kilometers, and it costs about $20,000. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But it would be so much better if we just didn't throw stuff that could then end up in the ocean,
That's
right?
The real solution is not to put it in the ocean in the first place.
Or anywhere near it that could get swept in.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow.
See ya.